I think you need some wind in your hair.
Change it! Shut the fan! Shut the fan! This is what happens when you show up. God, I was trying to film all nice with some nature behind me. Come out with your damn leaf blower. Yeah. Damn. Crazy woman. Anyway. God. I think flew something in my mouth. Anyway, this is part two of us making a vulture. We're going to be focusing on the feet this time, all solid sculpted. Should be a lot of fun. I'll go through the details of how I made it. And, you know, please subscribe if you like what you're seeing. And also, if you have any questions below, I will answer them in the comments. So, yeah, enjoy the video, and let's roll it. Hey guys, so unfortunately I wasn't able to get the first shape of this piece, but you're going to want to make it into a drumstick section. So of course we add the color, we make it into a drumstick, like a chicken drumstick, and then from there we cut 2 cuts in there that's going to create the 3 different toes. Now at this point I've separated those toes out, and I'm now heating it and then pushing up with this bent paint scraper pretty much to create the 4th toe. Now I'll do that until I get enough shape. I'm going to add some heat to it, and then we're going to flash it, and that'll allow me to cut free that 4th toe. So once it comes out, I take a look at it. I'm thinking it probably needs a little more shaping, so I'm pushing it back up and I'm kind of rounding it out. So I'm kind of shaping this foot, this section of toe before we cut it. Now I take the scissors and I just separate that real quick, and that's a good way to make another toe on any sort of animal foot or bird foot or whatever. After that, I'm going between the toes and I'm pinching with the tweezers. Now what that's doing is it's causing like a little web to kind of form between the toes, because birds, a lot of them have like a little webbing between them. So this is also how you would probably make duck feet if you wanted to do something like that, or anything that has webbing. After that, I'm going to heat up each individual toe and pull it to length. So pretty much what I'm doing is I'm going around the toe evenly and I'm heating it. Now if you just heat one side, that's going to be a problem because it's not going to pull evenly. So heating all the sides of the piece, and then having your assistant flash it, and then grabbing just the tip with the tweezers. The key is just to get just the very tip of it, because you don't want to take a lot of that meat out of it, because if you grab in the middle and pull, you're just gonna lose material. So I grab just the tip, pull with the tweezers, and then take the diamond shears and kind of pull the rest of the length. So at this point I'm thinking I should stretch it a little bit more, so I add a little bit more heat. I'm going to have my assistant flash it, and then I'm going to pull it a little bit more, and that just makes it a little more of an even pull, rather than I probably noticed that it was tapering a little bit, and I didn't want it to taper. I want it more length. So at that point, kind of repeat the process, add the diamond shear, and then so I'll make that little indentation, and then I'll pull the part that's going to break off so I don't create more marks on the piece. After that, I'll heat the opposite side. So we heated that right toe, and now we're going to heat the left toe, because I didn't want to go just straight to the middle one, because there's heat obviously on the right side of that piece. So if we heat the middle one, there might be residual heat coming from that first one, and it might affect the pull. So it's like I like to go to the opposite side, and from there start over while that other side is cooling down, and then we'll hit the middle up. So again, just hitting just the tip, pulling very slowly, seeing what's happening. Okay, I noticed that it's not pulling as evenly as I like, so I'm going back and I'm heating up the meat of that piece, and then I'm going to have the assistant flash it again one more time. And when she gets back, we'll do the same thing, just pulling it with the tweezers to length. I'm using that. I'm just kind of adjusting the toe, making sure that's okay. As you guys know, glass is always moving, so I try to keep things on center and keep things normal as they can be. Again, get the diamond shears, and then just knock that off. So now that's good. We'll do the middle toe now. So again, heating all the sides of this piece, because if you heat just one side, it won't pull evenly. So get all that, and then flash it, and again, pulling the tip of that Very slowly. I do everything very slow because you can always heat it and do it again. You can't, but if you pull too much or you pull too quickly, you know, it's over. So I know the middle toe is usually the longest toe on birds, so pulling that one just a little bit further and then having my assistant flash. And now we're going to do that last and final toe that we made. You notice I haven't put a jack line in this piece. These pieces you have to flash it very quickly because you don't want to lose the detail. And having a jack line in your piece is just going to make it all that more difficult to and more fragile where it could fall off the pipe. So I always like to put it in at the end. If you have a torch like this, then you can just add it at the very end so your assistant doesn't have to be as fragile and they're not as worried about this thing just falling off. So again, I'm shaping the toe. I'm using that paint scraper that's just a bent paint scraper before I pull it. As you guys know, glass has memory, so if we can shape that piece before we pull it, it will be an even pull. Again, heating it. So we always want to, if we want to move muscle, if we want to move meat of the glass, you want to heat it and then flash it and then do the move. If we wanted it just to be a surface move, of course we would just heat it and then do the move. So again, we've heated it, we pulled it, and then just pulled it in the shape. Now at this point, the toes are all pulled. I've now heated up the tips of them, and using that ball tool, I'm pushing back an indentation that not only makes a little crater where the talon will go, but it also puts a little meat at the beginning of those toes, which makes it look more realistic. From there, I'm starting to heat the whole stem of that toe, and we're going to start to pull the knuckles of this piece. So again, we want the whole meat to move, so we do the heat and then we flash it so it soaks in. I'm using both a knife and a tweezer to not only pull that knuckle but then push it down, so I'm getting motion in both directions so that I can really get it. Sometimes I'm lucky enough that I can get 2 or 3 out of one heat, but most of the time it's one at a time. Once you get that, it looks like we are starting to add the texture. So the texture is a lot of fun. As you guys know, it's my favorite part. Taking the knife and just going to town on it. There's really no perfect way to do this, but I do always consider the way gravity or the weight of a piece, you know, like the bird was putting weight on that foot, like how the wrinkles would actually form on it. And that'll just make your piece that much more realistic. So at this point, we're taking the knuckles. I like to kind of get the basic wrinkles in and then go around the knuckles, and kind of, because the knuckles have a different wrinkle. They kind of have a more spherical kind of wrinkle shape going on. After that, after you're done texturing all that, from there we go to more stamping, or you can use the wire brush, or just kind of like pretty much whatever you want to do. Here we are. So we've got the whole thing textured. I'm now, I probably put a heat into it. We flashed it, and I used the Parchovy sticks just to line everything back up so that things don't get too skewed while we're doing this texturing thing, because these toes are thinner, and as you heat them and push them around to get the texture, and they're going to want to move. So it's best if you can try to keep everything as normal as you can, so one thing doesn't get too far away from you, because it's harder to get things back. And also, when things are happening like that, they're also getting distorted, and sometimes it might be too distorted to get back. So if you take the time to just straighten everything back out real quick, maybe that's a 1 or 2 flash deal, and then go back at it. That's the best way I found, than just kind of going for it and then trying to fix it all at the end. So we're on our final toe here, just adding some more detail. Of course, these are surface moves, like we said, so we're heating it and then we're doing the move, because I don't really want that heat to soak in too much, because the more the heat soaks in, the more when I push the knife on the surface, it's going to distort the form. So we've got our basic shape here without the talons. At this point, we're flashing it. We're actually at Americus, Georgia right now. I was teaching a class, which a great university, great program. Chuck runs that program, and I'm actually at this point just using the stamp to put a little detail on the bottom. Of course, this is a typical Grant move where I'm adding detail to a part that you won't actually see. But for me, I just love it, you know. So this is like the pad of the bottom of the foot. I've got a honeycomb stamp right now that I'm using. And the key with putting texture on texture is you just really want to do a light heat and then just do the move, but not push so hard that you push through your previous texture and wrinkles that you've added. Once that's all in, so we're just heating it. Okay, so once that's all in, we add the ball tool again, and we add just that tip. So that's, again, a talon platform where these pieces are going to go. I've got Will over here. Will's brought me a black bit, a bit of black glass, and we're adding that to those little platforms. And then I'm taking it, and instead of going right to town and starting to pull it, I'm going to heat that up. I'm going to take a flash, and then I'm going to shape it up with that bent paint scraper. And of course, you can get these paint scrapers, Lowe's, Home Depot, anywhere, and just heat it and bend it. And I'm rounding out that form so that, again, when we heat it up and then have the assistant flash it, it will pull evenly. If I tried to pull that form after just straight cutting it, it would be all kinds of messed up, and it might have like a weird cut edge on it or a facet mark. It's always important to be comfortable, you know. When you're doing a process like this and you have a great assistant that can just flash it and bring it to you, and you're doing this kind of talon work, it's best to just be right next to the piece and just work it slow and also not so hunched over. So again, I've heated it, I've pulled it, I've noticed that it's not pulling the way I want it, so I'm adding just a little bit more heat just to get the tip right. So we're gonna actually, I believe, pull this, yep, right now. So pull it, and then as I'm pulling it, I notice it's still a little stiff. I add just a little more, and then I pull it, and I'm kind of gonna bend it into shape a little bit. Now, I'm not gonna add the flame to it. I'm just gonna take the tweezers and I'm gonna snip it like you're cutting your fingernails, just like a quick snip. And then we're gonna repeat this process all the way down the line. So again, add the bit, diamond shear it off, not trying to shape it at all. I'm gonna take a flash on that just real quick. I probably would have heated that, but sometimes it's not a bad idea just to flash it, because there is really no rush, because we're going to introduce the heat right here with the torch. So again, heating that back up and then shaping it with that bent tool just so that when we pull it, it is a round talon. Now, of course, if you wanted it to have a bottom facet, or you wanted it to be more triangular or any which shape, you would just put that shape in right now, and then when you heat it, pull it, and it should keep that shape. So notice that there were some cracks starting to form, so we just took a flash or two just to heat the moil. Again, kind of going back in there, reintroducing the heat, and I'm going to have my assistant flash that just so that it's an even pull, most even of pulls possible. So then clipping that, and then we go on to the next one. I'm not too worried about getting all these sharp as much, because at this point I just want to get them on there. And once they're all on there, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to resharpen them all. So again, I was going to edit this all out, but I thought it would be good for you guys to see the process 4 times. So again, heating it up, rounding it out. And even though I do it, I pretty much do it the same every time, but there's a couple flashes in between that aren't the same as previous talons. But I just wanted to show you that the process is always the same, depending on you know what your assistant's doing or what's happening with the piece. But just taking your time and heating it and then pulling it. So we've heated it, pulling it, and then I stop, and then I get that one last heat and do a pull, and I just kind of hold it in place while it sets up, and then just snap it. Now, at this point, we're doing the last one. Will's gotten the final bit, and I've been having Will repowder and reshape this thing between them, just in case that, you know, the black isn't holding or the bit's getting a little too long and the powder's starting to stretch. Because by the time it takes to make each one of these are almost real time, but I'm also editing out all the flashing. Will can have made that bit better. He could have just rolled in the powder real quick, heated it back up, and it's a fresh bit again. So then here we are adding the final one, and then just pulling that one more time. Just pull it slow, kind of see how it's doing, and then adding some heat right to the tip. I don't want to hit that main body because I don't want it to get any longer. I just want the tip to kind of taper out nice. So, but I want to keep that meat that's by the toe where it meets. So I'm watching it, bending it, and then kind of getting that final shape. As you notice, I'm also heating the moil while I'm doing this. So it's always good to multitask a little bit, because you're hanging out here, things are getting cold. And so if you can just aim it towards the moil while you're doing that, it'll save you so many pieces. Just hanging out, Will and I just talking about the work. It's always great to have good assistants and people working with you. The work's already hard enough, so surround yourself with positive people. And so we're just taking the part trophies, pushing things around, making sure everything's as even as possible before we do the final pull. So what I'm doing is I'm just heating the tip, and then I pull it. And that is how you get razor sharp things in glass. Now, it doesn't have to be talons. It could be shells or spikes or a mohawk or feathers. This is how you make points in glass. So you let it set up, and then you take the torch, and then you heat up just the tip, and then you pull it. So, and that's pretty much it. It's on a long piece, my handles start to shake because it's a pretty delicate move. So I could tell right there I wasn't going to get it because it took too long to grab. It's a very quick move, and I'll probably reheat that one again. So, but I always take the time to flash. And this is actually the final piece. I didn't actually get a finished product. So like I said, add that jack line at the end, and you'll be all good. That goes in the garage, and we'll be added to the piece later. So that's it. That is how you make a talon. Please subscribe if you like what you see, or if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. And have a great week, and I'll see you back here next week for putting it all together. Take care. You want to eat one of those?
Come on, look.
No.
Remember when Ryan ate a bunch of these?
You eat it. I'll eat it. Nope.
Go.
Not eating it. Nope.